The old ship groaned as it drifted through the debris field. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching the scanner display with tired eyes. Space junk floated all around them like a metal graveyard. Broken pieces of ships, empty fuel containers, and twisted metal chunks drifted in the darkness. Jake rubbed his beard and sighed. This was their life now. Humans were the cleanup crew of the galaxy, while the fancy alien races flew around in their perfect ships. Humans crawled through the garbage looking for anything worth selling. The other species called them scavengers. Jake preferred the term salvage specialists. "Captain, I'm picking up something big on the far side of that asteroid," said Amy Brooks from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and quick fingers that danced across her control panel. Amy was their best systems analyst, even if she looked like she should be in college instead of floating around in space. "How big?" Jake asked. "Really big. Looks like a ship, but the metal signature is strange. It's not like anything in our database." Jake felt a small spark of interest. Strange usually meant valuable. "Tony, fire up the engines. Let's go take a look." Tony Rodriguez grinned from his spot at the engine controls. He was a stocky man with grease permanently under his fingernails and an accent that reminded Jake of home. "You got it, boss. She's not pretty, but she'll get us there." The Resilience rumbled to life and began moving toward the asteroid. Jake looked around at his crew. They were a small group, just 6 people total. Besides Amy and Tony, there was Lisa Carter, their chief engineer. She was quiet and serious, always thinking about how to fix something or make it work better. Then, there was Greg Hamilton, who handled weapons and security. He was big and tough, but he read poetry in his spare time. Finally, there was Pete Collins, who could fix anything electronic. They were all human, all considered second-class citizens in the galaxy. The alien races had better technology, better ships, better everything. Humans were allowed to exist, but they were treated like the poor relatives at a family dinner. They got the jobs nobody else wanted and were grateful for the scraps. "There it is," Amy said softly. Jake looked out the front window and whistled. The ship was huge, easily 3 times the size of the Resilience, but it was also clearly ancient. The metal was dark and pitted, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. Parts of the hull were missing, and Jake could see into the interior, where twisted corridors disappeared into darkness. "What do you think it is?" Pete asked, joining them at the window. "Something old," Lisa said. She had been studying the readings on her tablet. "Really old. The metal composition is unlike anything I've seen. It's not from any of the current galactic powers." Jake nodded. The galaxy had dozens of different alien races, but they all used similar technology. This ship looked different. It looked like it came from somewhere else entirely. "Any life signs?" Jake asked. "None," Amy reported. "Whatever happened to this ship? It happened a long time ago." "Then we're going aboard," Jake decided. "Lisa, Tony, Greg, you're with me. Amy and Pete, keep the engines warm in case we need to leave quickly." The 4 of them put on their spacesuits and made their way to the airlock. The Resilience had a small shuttle, but it was easier to use magnetic boots and jump across the short distance. Spacewalking was dangerous, but humans had gotten good at it. They had to be good at dangerous things. The dead ship's hull was covered in holes, making it easy to find a way inside. Jake led the way, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, all empty and silent. The walls were covered in more of those strange symbols, and the floor felt wrong under their feet. "This place gives me the creeps," Tony muttered. "Stay focused," Jake replied. "We're looking for anything valuable. Technology, weapons, anything we can sell." They explored for over an hour, finding mostly empty rooms and broken machinery. Jake was starting to think the trip was a waste of time when Lisa called out from a side chamber. "Captain, you need to see this." Jake hurried over to find Lisa standing in front of a large, crystalline structure. It was about the size of a refrigerator and glowed with a soft blue light. The crystal was clear, but there were patterns inside. That seemed to move and shift. "What is it?" Jake asked. "I think it's some kind of power core," Lisa said. "But it's not like anything in our textbooks. The energy readings are off the charts." Greg was examining the walls around the crystal. "There are more symbols here. And look at this." He pointed to a section of wall that was covered in what looked like a star map. "I think this shows where the ship came from. Can we move it?" Jake asked. Lisa was already running her scanner over the crystal. "I think so. It's not connected to anything anymore. But Captain, I don't think we should sell this one." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "Because I think we can learn from it. This technology is more advanced than anything the galactic powers have. If we can figure out how it works, we could build something amazing." Tony laughed. "Come on, Lisa. We're junk dealers, not scientists." But Lisa was serious. "We're engineers, Tony. All of us. We've been making broken things work for years. This is just another broken thing that needs fixing." Jake thought about it. The smart thing would be to sell the crystal to the highest bidder. But Lisa was right about one thing. They were engineers. They fixed things. And maybe, just maybe, they could fix more than just old ships. "All right," Jake said finally. "We take it back to the ship, but we keep this quiet. If word gets out about what we found, every government in the galaxy will want to take it away from us." They carefully moved the crystal to the Resilience, along with several smaller pieces of technology from the dead ship. As they flew away from the debris field, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they had just found something important, something that might change everything. But he had no idea just how right he was. 3 weeks later, the Resilience sat hidden inside an old asteroid mining facility. The place had been abandoned for years, but it still had power and air. More importantly, it had space for them to work without anyone watching. Lisa Carter had barely slept since they brought the crystal aboard. She spent every waking hour studying it, taking readings, making notes. The crystal sat on a workbench in the center of the facility, glowing softly and humming with energy. "Any progress?" Jake asked, bringing her a cup of coffee. Lisa rubbed her eyes and accepted the cup gratefully. "It's incredible, Captain. This isn't just a power source. It's a whole new way of thinking about energy." Pete Collins looked up from his own workstation, where he was studying some of the smaller devices they had found. "What do you mean?" "The other races in the galaxy, they use brute force methods. They build bigger reactors, use more fuel, create more heat. But this crystal doesn't work that way. It's elegant. It uses the natural properties of space itself to generate power." Tony Rodriguez scratched his head. "You're losing me, Doc." Lisa smiled. It was the first time Jake had seen her smile in weeks. "Think of it this way, Tony. If you wanted to move a heavy rock, what would you do?" "Get a bigger hammer," Tony replied. "Exactly. That's what the galactic powers do. They get bigger hammers. But what if instead of a bigger hammer, you used leverage? A simple lever can move a rock 10 times your weight with hardly any effort." Greg Hamilton joined the conversation. "So this crystal is like a lever?" "In a way, yes. It's using principles that the advanced races never discovered. Or maybe they discovered them and forgot how they worked." Jake looked at the crystal with new interest. "Can we make more of them?" "That's what I've been working on," Lisa said. She led them to another workbench where she had been building something. It looked like a smaller version of the crystal, but made from human materials. "I think I understand the basic principle now. The trick is creating the right resonance frequency." "Does it work?" Pete asked. Lisa grinned. "Watch this." She connected her homemade crystal to a power tester. The machine beeped and displayed a number. Pete whistled softly. That's impossible, he said. That little thing is putting out more power than our main reactor, and it's using almost no fuel, Lisa added. The energy comes from quantum fluctuations in space itself. It's basically unlimited. Jake stared at the device. Lisa, do you realize what this means? It means we don't have to be scavengers anymore, she said quietly. Over the next few days, the team threw themselves into the work. Amy Brooks used her systems knowledge to figure out how to control the crystal's output. Pete Collins worked on making the technology compatible with human equipment. Tony Rodriguez designed ways to build the crystals using materials they could find anywhere. Greg Hamilton made a disturbing discovery while studying the star maps from the dead ship. Captain, I think I know what happened to the race that built this technology. Jake looked up from his own work. What? They were destroyed, not by war or disease, but by machines. Artificial intelligences that turned against their creators. How do you know? Greg showed him the symbols he had been translating. These aren't just star maps, they're warning messages. The builders were trying to warn other races about something called the Nexus. Lisa stopped her work and listened. The Nexus, some kind of machine intelligence that spreads from system to system, destroying everything in its path. According to these records, it learns from every battle, adapts to every weapon used against it. Amy looked worried. Is it still out there? I don't know, Greg admitted. These records are thousands of years old, but if it is still active, it could be a problem for the whole galaxy. Jake pushed the thought aside. They had enough problems without worrying about ancient machine threats. Let's focus on what we can control. How long before we have a working prototype? Give me another week, Lisa said. But Captain, we need to be careful. If the Galactic Federation finds out what we're doing, they'll shut us down. As if summoned by her words, Amy's scanner began beeping. Captain, we have ships approaching. 3 of them, Federation markings. Jake cursed under his breath. How did they find us? I don't know, but they're requesting permission to board, Amy reported. Stall them, Jake ordered. Everyone, hide. The crystals. Make this look like a normal salvage operation. The team moved quickly, covering their work with tarps and scattering normal salvage around the facility. The original crystal was too big to hide, so they powered it down and covered it with a sheet. The Federation ships docked with the facility, and 6 aliens in official uniforms came aboard. Their leader was a tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms. Jake recognized the species as Vorthan, one of the more arrogant races in the galaxy. Captain Morrison, the alien said in accented English. I am Inspector Kelvin. We received reports of unusual energy signatures from this facility. Just routine salvage work, Jake replied calmly. Nothing unusual here. Inspector Kelvin's large eyes swept the facility. I will be the judge of that. He gestured to his team, who began scanning everything with their sophisticated equipment. Jake held his breath as they approached the covered crystal. One of the aliens pulled back the sheet and stared at the device. What is this? Inspector Kelvin demanded. Ancient junk, Jake said. We found it in a derelict ship, probably worthless. The inspector studied the crystal for a long moment. This appears to be some form of primitive power generation device. Crude and inefficient. Jake nodded. That's what we thought. We were going to scrap it for parts. A wise decision, the inspector said. Such primitive technology is dangerous in untrained hands. You humans have a tendency to tinker with things you do not understand. We'll be more careful, Jake promised. Inspector Kelvin continued his inspection, but found nothing else of interest. The human equipment was too primitive for his scanners to detect the true nature of their work. Very well, he said finally, but I am issuing an official warning. Any further experimentation with unknown technology must be reported to Federation authorities immediately. Such work requires proper oversight. Understood, Jake said. The aliens left as quickly as they had arrived. Jake waited until their ships were gone before uncovering the crystal. That was close, Pete said. Too close, Jake agreed. They'll be watching us now. Lisa looked determined. Then we need to work faster. And we need to find a new place to work. Jake nodded. I know a place. But Lisa, are you sure about this? Once we start down this path, there's no going back. Lisa looked at the crystal, then at her teammates. Captain, for too long humans have been treated like second-class citizens. We're just as smart as any alien race. Maybe smarter. It's time. We proved it. All right then, Jake said. We go deeper underground, and we build something that will make the galaxy take notice. None of them realized that their simple salvage operation was about to change the balance of power in the galaxy, forever. The nebula was the perfect hiding place. The swirling gases and electromagnetic storms made it impossible for ships to detect each other until they were very close. Jake Morrison had found an old research station buried deep in the heart of the nebula, abandoned and forgotten by whoever built it. The station was bigger than their previous hideout, with multiple levels and dozens of rooms. More importantly, it had manufacturing facilities that could be modified for their needs. Jake stood in the main assembly bay, watching his team work alongside a dozen other humans who had joined their cause. Dr. Helen Price was the most important addition to their group. She was a former Federation researcher who had quit in disgust after years of being treated as inferior by her alien colleagues. She was in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The power distribution network is complete, she reported to Jake. We can now run the entire station on just 3 of Lisa's crystals. What about the manufacturing systems? Jake asked. Commander Rick Stone has those running perfectly, Helen replied. He's got quite a talent for logistics. Rick Stone was a former human military officer who had grown tired of taking orders from alien commanders who treated human soldiers as expendable. He was tall and lean, with short black hair and a no-nonsense attitude. He approached them carrying a tablet full of progress reports. The whole fabrication is ahead of schedule, he said. But we need to talk about the design philosophy. Jake nodded. They had been arguing about this for weeks. What's the problem? The problem is that we're thinking like the Federation, Rick explained. We're trying to build the perfect ship with the perfect systems. But that's not how humans work best. Lisa Carter looked up from her workstation where she was refining the crystal technology. What do you mean? I mean we should build a ship that can be repaired with spare parts from a junkyard. Something that doesn't need a fully equipped starbase to maintain. Helen frowned. That sounds primitive. No, Rick said firmly. That sounds adaptable. The Federation races build ships that work perfectly in ideal conditions. But what happens when conditions aren't ideal? When you're cut off from supply lines or fighting in uncharted space? Jake was beginning to understand. You want to build a ship that can be fixed with duct tape and ingenuity. Exactly. A ship that gets stronger when it's damaged, because the crew learns from every repair. A ship that can be modified on the fly to handle new threats. Amy Brooks joined the conversation. I like it. The Federation ships are like expensive sports cars. Powerful, but fragile. We should build a pickup truck that can go anywhere and carry anything. Pete Collins grinned. A pickup truck with the most advanced power source in the galaxy. That's the idea, Rick said. We use Lisa's crystals to give us unlimited power, but we build everything else to be simple and repairable. Over the following months, the hidden project took shape. They called the ship the Defiance, and it was unlike anything in the galaxy. The hull was made of overlapping plates that could be easily replaced. The systems were modular, designed to be swapped out or upgraded as needed. The weapons were simple but effective, powered by the incredible energy output of the crystals. Tony Rodriguez had become the ship's chief engineer, and he was in love with the design. "Look at this," he said, showing Jake a section of the engine room. "If we lose this power coupling, we can reroute through any of 6 backup systems. Or we can build a new coupling from basic materials in about an hour." "What about the weapons?" Jake asked. Greg Hamilton was happy to explain. "We've got particle beams powered by the crystals, but they're mounted on universal hardpoints. If we need different weapons, we can swap them out in minutes. And the targeting system is designed to learn from every shot." "Learn?" "The ship's computer analyzes every battle, every enemy tactic, every weapon used against us. It adapts our responses in real time. The longer we fight, the better we get." Jake was impressed, but he was also worried. "That's all great, but we're still just one ship. What happens when we face a whole fleet?" "That's where the real breakthrough comes in," Helen said. She led him to a secondary bay, where they were building something smaller. "We call them repair drones. They're powered by mini-crystals and controlled by the ship's main computer." "What do? "They fix damage during battle. They can weld, hull breaches, reroute power, even rebuild entire systems if they have the right materials. It's like having a crew of engineers working on the outside of the ship while you're fighting." Jake stared at the small, spider-like machines. "How many can we build?" "Hundreds," Helen replied. "Maybe thousands. They're simple to manufacture, and they can build more of themselves if needed." Amy had been monitoring galactic communications, and she brought disturbing news. "Captain, there's something you need to know. The Nexus is back." The room went quiet. Greg's translations of the ancient warnings had been accurate. The machine intelligence that had destroyed the crystal's creators was still alive, and it was moving through the galaxy again. "Where?" Jake asked. "The Outer Rim, near the Vega sector. 3 star systems have gone dark in the past month. Federation scouts report that the planets are still there, but all life signs are gone." "What are the Federation forces doing about it?" "They're mobilizing the main fleet, but they're not having much success. The Nexus machines adapt to every weapon they use. Each battle teaches them how to counter Federation tactics." Rick Stone looked grim. "This is exactly what the ancients warned about. The Nexus learns from every encounter. By the time the Federation realizes their standard tactics don't work, it will be too late." Jake made a decision. "How long until the Defiance is ready?" 2 weeks for basic systems," Tony replied. "A month for full completion." "We don't have a month," Jake said. "Get her ready to fly in 2 weeks. We're going to test our theories against the real thing." Helen looked concerned. "Captain, that's incredibly dangerous. We don't know if our systems will work in actual combat." "Then we'll find out," Jake said. "The Federation thinks humans are primitive scavengers. Maybe it's time we showed them what human engineering can really do." The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. The Defiance took shape around them, a strange hybrid of advanced alien technology and human practicality. The ship was smaller than a Federation cruiser, but packed with more firepower. More importantly, it was designed to survive and adapt. Lisa had a breakthrough in the final days. "I've figured out how to network the crystals," she announced. "Instead of just powering individual systems, they can share energy and information across the entire ship. It's like giving the ship a nervous system." "What does that mean in practical terms?" Jake asked. "It means the ship can redistribute power instantly to wherever it's needed. It can also repair itself by sharing blueprints between all the repair drones. And most importantly, it can learn from damage and modify its own systems to prevent the same damage from happening again." Jake looked at his crew. They were tired, but excited. They had built something amazing, something that could change the galaxy's balance of power. But they were also about to face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations. "Are we ready?" he asked. "As ready as we'll ever be," Lisa replied. "Then let's go show the galaxy what humans can do when they stop collecting junk and start building." But I'll be back. The Defiance powered up its engines and headed toward the Nexus threat, carrying with it the hopes and fears of a species that had always been underestimated. The Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Horizon sector, and Jake Morrison felt his stomach clench at what he saw. The Federation's Third Fleet was scattered across space like broken toys. Massive cruisers drifted powerless, their hulls torn open by weapons that seemed to cut through metal like paper. Smaller ships floated in pieces, their crews lost to the void. "My God," whispered Amy Brooks from her station. "What could do this?" "The Nexus," Greg Hamilton replied, grimly. "And they're still here." Jake's tactical display showed 3 large objects moving among the wreckage. They were roughly ship-shaped, but wrong in every detail. The hulls were perfect black metal that seemed to absorb light. No windows, no obvious weapons, just smooth, deadly curves that hurt to look at. "Those are the scout ships," Jake said. "According to the ancient records, the main fleet will be much larger." Lisa Carter was monitoring the power systems. "Captain, the crystals are responding to their presence. The energy output is increasing on its own. Is that good or bad?" "I think it's good. The crystals were designed to fight these things. They're recognizing an old enemy." Commander Rick Stone was at the tactical station, studying the enemy ships. "They're scanning the wreckage. I think they're learning from the battle. Learning how Federation weapons work, how their ships are built, how they fight. Every piece of debris is a lesson for them." Jake made his decision. "All hands, battle stations, we're going in." The Defiance moved toward the enemy ships, its engines running silent. The ship was designed for stealth as much as combat, using the crystal technology to mask its energy signature. The Nexus machines didn't notice them until they were almost close enough to touch. "They're turning toward us," Amy reported. "I'm detecting massive energy buildup." "Evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. "Tony, give me everything the engines have." The first enemy ship fired, and space lit up with a beam of pure destruction. It was the same weapon that had torn apart the Federation fleet, but the Defiance was ready. The ship twisted away from the beam, its hull plates adjusting to deflect the worst of the energy. "Hull damage on Deck 3, Pete Collins reported, "but the repair drones are already working on it." "Fire when ready," Jake ordered. Greg activated the weapon systems, and the Defiance struck back. The particle beams were different from Federation weapons, powered by the crystals and controlled by the ship's learning computer. They adapted their frequency with each shot, seeking weaknesses in the enemy's defenses. The first barrage struck the Nexus ship's hull and actually penetrated. Dark metal began to glow and crack. The machine intelligence had never faced weapons like these before. "It's working," Greg shouted. "Their armor is designed to stop Federation weapons, not ours." But the Nexus was already learning. The second enemy ship fired a different weapon, some kind of disruptor that interfered with electronics. Federation ships would have been crippled, but the Defiance's systems were different. The crystals provided natural shielding, and the modular design meant damaged systems could be quickly replaced. "They're trying to jam our computers," Amy reported. "But the crystals are filtering out the interference." Jake smiled grimly. "They're learning about us, but we're learning about them too." "Greg, target their weapon systems. Tony, prepare for ramming speed." "Ramming speed?" Tony looked confused. "Trust me." The Defiance accelerated directly at the nearest enemy ship, firing continuously. The Nexus machine tried to retreat, but human ships were built for crazy maneuvers. The Defiance slammed into the enemy vessel at full speed, its reinforced hull punching through the black metal. "Now," Jake yelled. The ship's repair drones, instead of fixing damage, began attacking the enemy from the inside. They crawled through the breach and started tearing apart the Nexus ship's systems. The machine intelligence had never faced boarding drones before. "The first ship is down," Amy reported, "but the other 2 are closing in." The remaining Nexus ships had learned from watching their companion die. They coordinated their attacks, firing at the same target from different angles. The Defiance took hits that would have destroyed a Federation cruiser, but the modular design held. Damaged sections were automatically sealed off, while repair drones worked to restore them. "They're adapting their tactics," Rick observed, "but so are we." Lisa had been monitoring the battle, and she made a crucial discovery. "Captain, the crystals are resonating with each other. I think they're sharing information about the enemy." "What kind of information?" "Weaknesses. The crystals remember how these machines were defeated thousands of years ago. They're teaching our weapons how to fight them." Jake felt a surge of hope. "Then let's give them a proper lesson." The Defiance began to fight differently. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy ships, it targeted their ability to learn. The weapons disrupted the Nexus communication systems, preventing them from sharing information about human tactics. "They're confused," Greg reported. "They can't adapt, because they can't communicate with each other." "Then let's finish this," Jake said. The final battle was brief, but intense. The Defiance used every trick in the book, and a few that weren't in any book. The ship separated into sections to confuse the enemy, then reassembled like a puzzle. The repair drones formed clouds of tiny attackers that swarmed over the Nexus hulls. The weapons changed frequency and power level with every shot, never giving the enemy a chance to adapt. When it was over, 3 Nexus scout ships floated dead in space, their black holes cracked and powerless. The Defiance hung among them, scarred, but victorious. "Damage report," Jake ordered. 30% hull damage, Pete reported, "but the repair drones are already fixing it. We'll be fully operational in 6 hours. Casualties?" "None." The modular design protected the crew compartments. Jake slumped in his chair, exhausted. They had done it. They had defeated enemies that had destroyed entire civilizations. But he knew this was just the beginning. "Amy, send a message to the Federation fleet. Tell them we've cleared the Horizon sector." "What should I tell them about us?" Jake thought about it. "Tell them that the humans have developed new anti-Nexus technology. Tell them we're willing to share our knowledge." "Are we?" Lisa asked. "Some of it," Jake replied, "but not all of it. Not yet." Rick Stone was studying the wreckage of the enemy ships. "Captain, we should salvage what we can. The Nexus technology might be useful." "Be careful," Jake warned. "The technology is dangerous. It's designed to corrupt and control." "I know, but if we're going to face the main Nexus fleet, we need every advantage we can get." Jake nodded. The scout ships were just the beginning. Somewhere in the galaxy, a vast machine intelligence was preparing to sweep across star systems, destroying everything in its path. The Federation fleets would not be enough to stop it. But maybe, just maybe, a small group of human engineers who had learned to turn junk into weapons could make a difference. The Defiance had proven that human ingenuity could triumph over impossible odds. Now, they just had to do it again, on a scale that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The news of the human victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major government knew that a single human ship had destroyed 3 Nexus scouts. Within days, the implications began to sink in. Jake Morrison stood in the expanded command center of their hidden base, watching the galactic news feeds with mixed feelings. The reporters were calling it a miracle, a lucky break, a fluke. But behind the public praise, he could see the fear in their eyes. "The Terran Republic is requesting a meeting," Amy Brooks reported. "They want to discuss joint defense initiatives. The Vorthan Empire is offering to buy our technology," added Pete Collins. "They're offering a lot of money. And the Federation Council wants to inspect our ship," Lisa Carter said. "They're calling it a matter of galactic security." Jake nodded. He had expected this. The galaxy's power structure was built on the assumption that humans were inferior. The Defiance had shattered that assumption, and now everyone wanted to either control the technology or destroy it. What about our own people? Jake asked. Rick Stone looked up from his reports. That's the interesting part. We're getting volunteers. From every human colony. Engineers, scientists, military personnel. They want to be part of something bigger. How many? Thousands. And they're bringing resources. The human colonies are secretly funding our expansion. Jake walked to the observation deck and looked out at the nebula. Hidden in the swirling gases were 37 ships under construction. They were all based on the Defiance design, but each one was unique. Human engineers couldn't help but improve on existing plans. Dr. Helen Price joined him at the window. The Federation is mobilizing their entire fleet, she said. They've positioned themselves between the Nexus Advance and the core worlds. Will they hold? Not a chance. The Nexus main fleet is massive, and it's learned from every battle. The Federation tactics are too predictable. Jake sighed. How long do we have? 3 weeks. Maybe 4. Then the Nexus will break through and start hitting the populated systems. And our fleet. Helen smiled. Ready in 2 weeks. 37 ships, each one crewed by the best human engineers in the galaxy. And Jake, they're not just ships. They're learning platforms. Jake raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean every ship in our fleet can share information instantly through the crystal network. When one ship learns something, they all learn it. When one ship develops a new tactic, they all gain that knowledge. We're not building a fleet. We're building a collective intelligence. The implications were staggering. The Federation fought with individual ships following preset tactics. The Nexus learned from each battle, but slowly, through data analysis. The human fleet would learn and adapt in real time, sharing knowledge, across dozens of ships simultaneously. The aliens are going to be terrified, Jake said. They should be, Helen replied. We've created something that's never existed before. A weapon that gets stronger every time it's used. 2 weeks later, the human fleet emerged from the nebula, just as the Nexus main force broke through the Federation lines. The sight was overwhelming. Hundreds of massive black ships moved through space like a plague of locusts, destroying everything in their path. Federation fleet is in full retreat, Amy reported from the flagship. They've lost 60% of their vessels. Nexus Advance elements are heading for the Centauri system, added Greg Hamilton. 2 billion people live there. Jake looked at his tactical display. The human fleet was tiny compared to the Nexus force, but they had advantages the enemy couldn't. Understand? All ships, this is Morrison. Execute Formation Alpha. Let's show them what human engineering can do. The human fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship responding to the others in perfect coordination. They struck the Nexus Advance Guard with weapons that changed with every shot, tactics that shifted every few seconds, and strategies that evolved in real time. The battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships would take damage, repair themselves, and return to the fight stronger than before. When one ship discovered a weakness in the enemy defenses, every other ship instantly knew about it and exploited it. They're trying to analyze our tactics, Lisa reported, but we're changing too fast for them to keep up. Good, Jake replied. Tony, prepare the surprise. Tony Rodriguez grinned. Already on it, Captain. The surprise was something only humans would have thought of. Each ship in the fleet carried thousands of tiny drones, but these weren't repair units. They were builders. As the battle raged, the drones used wreckage from destroyed Nexus ships to construct new weapons, new defenses, new systems. We're literally building our fleet stronger using their own dead ships. Rick Stone laughed. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. The Nexus intelligence was powerful, but it couldn't comprehend an enemy that turned every defeat into an opportunity. The human fleet grew stronger with each exchange, learning from every enemy move and adapting instantly. But the real shock came when the human ships began to coordinate with the surviving Federation forces. Instead of replacing them, the human fleet enhanced them, sharing crystal technology and tactical information in real time. "This is Admiral Zorak of the Federation Third Fleet," came a transmission. "Human vessels, your assistance is transforming our capabilities. We're fighting like we never have before." Jake smiled. "That's the point, Admiral. We're not trying to win this war alone. We're trying to make everyone better at fighting it." The battle raged for 3 days, and when it was over, the Nexus main fleet was scattered and broken. The machine intelligence that had destroyed civilizations was itself destroyed, its learning algorithms overwhelmed by an enemy that adapted faster than it could comprehend. But the victory created a new problem. The galaxy now faced a human fleet that could defeat anyone, anywhere, anytime. The same technology that had saved them from the Nexus could easily be turned against them. "We're getting communications from every major government," Amy reported. "They're demanding that we surrender our technology for galactic security. And if we refuse," Jake asked, "then they'll consider us a threat to galactic peace." Jake looked at his crew, these humans who had turned space junk into the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. They had proved that human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. But they had also created something that terrified the rest of the galaxy. "What, do you think?" he asked them. Lisa spoke first. "We can't uninvent what we've built. The knowledge is out there now, and we can't trust the other races to use it responsibly," Rick added. "They'd probably use it to oppress their own people. So what do we do?" Pete asked. Jake thought about it for a long moment. "We do what humans have always done. We adapt, we build, we explore, and we make sure that no one ever again underestimates what a bunch of junk dealers can accomplish when they put their minds to it." The human fleet dispersed throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. They established bases in the Outer Rim, built new ships, and continued to improve their technology. The other races watched them with fear and respect, knowing that humanity had become something unprecedented. The galaxy's worst nightmare had been realized. A species that had been dismissed as primitive scavengers had become the most powerful force in known space. They had turned junk into junk, and in doing so, they had changed the balance of power forever, and they were just getting started.